Cloud. All right. Okay, wonderful. So first of all, good evening. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you. It has been an exciting 2 weeks. Last time we left off, we talked about the fourth of 5 basic principles, which was practicing the presence of God. And tonight we're going to talk about the law of demonstration. So I just want to do a couple of housekeeping things because this will rebroadcast on YouTube and on Facebook. So if you are watching on YouTube, you are watching on Facebook, make sure you like, subscribe, share this with a friend. This is a unique movement that looks uniquely like you, that is carrying this message of divine oneness, of radical unity around the globe. And be a part of that. Hit that share button. Let's take a moment to just open tonight in prayer. So if you would just center yourself right where you are and know that you are the power and presence of God. You're the hands, the feet. You are the operating power that manifests the divine in this earth plane. You have a divine assignment that only you can do. It is the calling that is on your soul. And my hope is that what we do here tonight supports you in the release of the gift that is you. I give thanks and praise because I know that every prayer I pray is answered in the name and in the consciousness of I am. This prayer is so, and so it is. Okay, amen. So I want to start with just kind of a review, and just to make sure we're all on the same page. The reason I took this pause, so we started at the top of the second quarter, we started working through the Proverbs. And I thought it was great to start, but then I wanted to back up because what I wanted to give you was where are my training wheels? What helps me not kind of run off the rails with my metaphysical interpretation? You know, what makes sure that I don't go off into woo-woo land and come up with an interpretation that's like, did you pull that out your backside? You know, and what allows you to not be that person is spiritual principle. And so there are an infinite number of principles. There's no end to it. But what my teacher told me when I first started in this tradition is that just learn these 5, just master these 5, and then you can get to advanced things. Just do this. And so that first principle is the omnipresence of God. The omnipresence of God is that there is only one power, there is only one presence. That power, that presence is God, and God is the everywhere evenly present spirit of absolute good. Now, the next part of that is that therefore God is absolute good. Therefore, in reality, there is no evil. I'll let you chew on that. And so we've already talked about that. We talked about the difference between reality and existence, that we make a distinction between what is in the absolute versus what is in the relative realm of existence, meaning the realm of existence that's where you can pick up things by your 5 senses versus what you intuit. And so in reality, now, what happens in the earth plane is relative. Everything has its opposite. But in the absolute, there is no opposite. There's no opposite to God. The second principle is the divinity of humankind, that the great discovery of humankind is that we are God in expression, that each one of us is a point of awareness in the mind of God. So it's the example that was always given to me, and I think it fits. I think we're all old enough to know this, is if you have a radio tuner. And y'all know about a radio tuner? Okay, so you have a radio tuner, and if you want, I don't know what station is in your area, but where I grew up, it was KMJQ Magic 102 FM, 102.1 FM. And if you got 102.3, you missed the station. You could pick it up a little bit, but you pretty much missed the station. If you got 101.1 1.9, you missed the station. And so each one of us is a point of awareness tuning into the mind of God. And so we are the quality of the expression that we give in the earth plane is a function of how well did you tune in. I know that in the mornings, if I don't get that morning routine right, if I don't get that formula right, I'm not quite tuned in when I get to the office. When I get to the office, you might not get spiritual Sherri. You might get Sherri who had not enough sleep. Things didn't go right the way that I wanted to in the morning. Like I didn't before I got my systems right, I wasn't tuned in, right? And so it's the same thing. It's like how are you tuning in to the presence and the power of God? So that's the divinity of humankind. The third spiritual principle is the value and the power of thought, which is that our thoughts create our world. That what you think about it is what it becomes for you. Experience itself is absolutely neutral. Experience means nothing until you say what it means. You come in and say, it was a good thing or it was not a good thing. You come in and say, this was something bad or this was something good. So the value of our thinking is that what you call it, it becomes for you. And so the idea of a setback, the idea of a mistake, the idea of a misstep is a choice that you have made to call it a misstep, a mistake, or a setback. You can call it whatever you want to, and it is going to become that for you. That's the power, and that's the value and the power of our thoughts. And so as a result, we have the ability to shape our own experience, to shape our world. The fourth principle, which we finished last time, was practicing the presence of God. In other words, you are God in expression. But just like it's wonderful that we're in the Olympics, just like these athletes have to practice the presence of being a gold medalist in order to be a gold medalist. Mm-hmm. And if anything is off with the calibration of their training, their physical training and their mental training, there's either an explosion or implosion. It's one of those two things happen. And so it's the same thing with being God in action. There is a fine-tuning process. And the best way I know how to describe it from my own personal experience is that you're perfecting the formula of releasing the best you into expression. So what combination of prayer, meditation, visioning, visualizing, two different things, visioning, visualizing, journaling, chanting, sitting in the silence, what combination of those things helps you release the best you into expression? That's practicing the presence. And so this is not about rote prayer. So you come into this movement and you learn different ways of praying, but you're not supposed to stay there. What you're meant to do is to take these tools and tweak them until you find your best formula. So one of the ways, just to make this practical, one of the ways that I practice the presence of God is that I track my habits. Because I want I have learned that if I gamify the things that I do, I'm more likely to do them. And so I play a game with myself, fill in the blank, and try not to get any empty blanks. You would think that it would get old. It simply does not get old. It does. Every 10 days, I sit down with that spreadsheet because I do it every day. And every 10 days, I sit down, I evaluate, and I write down my percentages. And you would think that it would get old and that I would just be tired of it. But I tell you, every time I'm trying to beat myself, in a sense, you know what I mean? I not beat myself up, but like be better than I was the last 10 days. So again, what you're working on is what's the formula to you? How do you, okay, so Genesis 1:12 says that he created everything with the seed of the thing in itself. That's a principle. It repeats everywhere. Everything contains the seed of itself. And Glenda, I see your hand. Just give me 1 second to finish this thought and I'll come right to you. Everything contains the seed of itself. Everything. Trees, birds, plants, humans, animals, everything contains the seed of itself. So that therefore your future is not before you, it's inside of you. And your work then is the spiritual work to release the highest you out into expression. Get it out of potential, because the potential is in you. Get it out of you into expression. What's the combination of prayer, meditation, visioning, visualizing, sitting in the silence, journaling, chanting, for me, tracking, whatever that is, whatever your thing is, what's the best combination that releases the best you into expression? Glenda.
Wow, I had one thought and then you just brought up another one. So for the first one,
okay.
Before I retired, the last supervisor that I had, he actually through Coursera took a course on gamification, because what they have found is that the way that people make changes, and some of the best changes, is to gamify whatever it is you're trying to do. And that's the whole idea with Weight Watchers and the points. It's a whole gamification that Weight Watchers has done. And when he took the class, they actually used, his professor used Weight Watchers as a case study. And he really broke down how they, hired, psychologists and stuff like that to really show how it was done.
Yes.
And then when you were just talking about the seed and the seed in itself and all of that, my daughter and my son-in-law just celebrated their 15-year wedding anniversary, and they were going out of town. And my son-in-law has a garden here in the backyard. And so we had a watermelon. So he says, okay, there's some watermelon. He said, I saw you bought some spears from the grocery store. He said, but we have some watermelon from the garden. He said, but it does have the seeds in it. I said, well, that's the one I actually prefer. I love this, the seeds of watermelon and all of that. And when you just said it, it made me think, okay, GMOs, they don't have the seed in it. And every once in a while you get like a little speck of something, but it's not a seed that can make it grow. And that's what makes it inauthentic.
Yes, yes. Oh, that's good, Glenda. That's good. Which Glenda is one of our prayer chaplains at Up Church. Just to let you know, our bench is deep. Just that's a little brag. So
thank you.
So that's practicing the presence. You practice the presence not to be holy. You practice the presence because you want to release what's inside of you. You are extraordinary beyond measure. You are, I don't know how to say this, but you're the best thing walking and talking and breathing. You are, if I thought about it long enough, it would bring me to tears how amazing you are. And my charge to you is to get in touch with the presence of God inside of you so that you may release all of that beauty into expression. And I don't mean just beauty the way, the world talks about beauty, but I mean that when you are at your stunning best, you're breathtaking. And if you think about the people that we admire, whether they have consciously figured out or their unconscious competence, what we're enraptured with is the breathtaking beauty of their gift. It's why we all got excited for Sha'Carri and then went, oh, or why we were all excited for just Simone, and it was like, oh, because the God in you released into expression is breathtaking. And you're meant to release it. It don't feel good keeping it in. It doesn't. And so the prayer, the meditation, all of it is to release it into expression. Make me my most authentic self, God. And you get into partnership with God. That's what that practicing the presence is about forming that partnership where you are talking to the spirit and you find that God has a language, or the intelligence. I'm saying God, but I know that sometimes brings up that anthropomorphic idea of God, that the presence has a language by which it speaks back to you. So tonight, the conversation, let me stop there. Are there any questions, anything on these 4 principles? So tonight, I want to, and those of you that are new here, I don't mind you interrupting me, asking me questions. So don't think you got to hold it to the end. That for me, that's part of the experience. I want to make sure that I'm serving the release of your gift. So in the moment, ask the question. The 5th principle is called the law of demonstration. And this used to be my least favorite one, just because I was raised by an English professor and you don't define a word with the word. So that, and they said, well, it was, first of all, they told me that principle was fundamental truth. Then they told me that law was how the principle works. And then they said, well, the 5th principle is the law of demonstration. And the student of the professor said, that don't make no sense. Okay, what you're doing. All right, but let me see if I can make this make sense. The law of demonstration as a principle, to say that it's fundamental truth is to say that it never changes. It never changes, that you can depend on it. And so the law of demonstration is that like begets like. And another way to explain the law of demonstration is the law of mind action, or the law of the action of the mind. Like begets like. Like begets like. Matthew 7:1-2 is the ask and you shall receive, seek and you shall find, knock and the door shall open. I may have that backwards. Matthew 7:7-8. Hold on, I'm trying to pull it up exactly so I don't misquote. Okay, well, yeah. Do not judge. 1 and 2 says, do not judge, or you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. And then 7 and 8 is ask, and it will be given to you. In other words, what you put out must come back. No exceptions. Luke 12:32 is, fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. And then Galatians 6:7 is one of my favorites, that do not be weary in well doing, that basically you will reap what you sow, for God is not mocked. The law of demonstration says that what is happening in the mind is what is happening in the body. What is happening in the mind is what is happening in the body. We are not privy or present, not privy, that's not it, because it's not hidden from you. We're just not present to it. We don't have an awareness of it. We are not always present to what is happening in the body, in the mind. And many times we have to look at our results to actually determine our input. Results prove what is happening in the mind. Results prove what is happening in the mind. If it is in the body, it's in the mind. Whatever is in the fruit was in the seed, or at least it was in the soil that impacted the seed. And so this principle repeats everywhere. So when you see someone hit a peak and then hit a next peak and then hit another peak, something's going on in the mind, because you're talking about sustained successes. And so what you want to get good at doing is developing the seed. Because this universe is faithful. If you put, I shared with you guys a few weeks ago, an article on, it was in the New York Times, and there was a university, I believe, that had, yes, Wanda, your body believes every word you say. Amen. That there was a university, and this was an intentional study, a professor in, like, I'm gonna make up this number because I don't remember the exact details of the article, but I can find it before we close today. A professor buried some seeds in a capsule, so they wouldn't germinate, in a capsule like in the 1900s, and somewhere in there. And a class in 2021, 2020, somewhere in there, dug up those seeds. They knew about them. They dug up this capsule. They planted those seeds, and those seeds sprouted and germinated and grew into whatever, I don't remember what the plant was, but grew into the plant that it was supposed to be. The seeds never die. So the seed that is within you, remember, because we're talking about principle, what never changes. How God does anything is how God does everything. The seed that is in you that never changes has not been tarnished by what you've been through, has not been tarnished by who hurt you, has not been tarnished by the hurt you've done to yourself, has not been tarnished by the hurt you've done to other people. It has never been changed. It's just waiting to be planted in a fertile mind that can receive it. And what I found out in my own journey is that you have to have a spirit of self-belief. You have to have a spirit of believing that you can have as far as you can see. In fact, you cannot have any further than you can see. Since we're in the Olympics. So y'all know I'm a Simone Biles devotee. I absolutely love that girl. I think she's absolutely fantastic. I think she's wonderful. She hit a roadblock mentally, around which at this moment in her life could not see herself around. I'm not telling you that she should have or would have. That's not what I'm telling you. I'm saying that in the moment that she was in, a roadblock came up in her that she could not see her way around. You cannot have beyond what you can see for yourself. I mean, that's as they say in the whole church, they can pass the plate on that. If you this idea of I'm unworthy, I don't deserve, guess what you won't have? That extraordinary life that is rightfully yours. And this is no shade on her, because the girl is the GOAT in my mind all day long. She's just the example that we can use today. That when we hit those blocks, What do we fall back on? What do we go to? Where do we turn when we hit those blocks? And it will come down to, how do you define you? I'm reading an excellent book right now. It's excellent. It's called Alter Ego. It's my favorite thing. Do anybody know that book, Alter Ego? Alter Ego, Todd Herman. It's very much in the vein of psycho-cybernetics, but modern day, which is also an excellent book to read. But Alter Ego, and I'm not even done, but this is just the good part right now. They did an experiment with children that were like, Jordan's age, like 7, 8, 6, whatever. And they gave them a set of keys to open a door. And they divided them into 3 groups. One group of kids they had in plain clothes. The second group of kids, they told them to pretend to be your favorite superhero. Another group of kids, they told them to put on a superhero costume. They allowed them to choose the costume of their favorite superhero, like Dora the Explorer, Batman, what have you. They gave them the keys and said, okay, we want you guys to open this door. And the kids with regular plain clothes on tried and they couldn't get it, and they just kind of gave up. And the red herring, if you will, is that the key didn't open any door. What they were testing was how long before these kids give up. The kids that pretended to be a superhero lasted longer. The kids that had on the uniforms, the superhero uniform, lasted the longest. What they also did was they recorded the children. And, the thing about children is that they externalize their self-talk. I don't know what age you learn to shut up, but at 5, 6, and 7, whatever you're thinking is what you're saying. And the kids that were in the plain clothes said things like, I can't do this. This is too much. And they gave up. The kids that pretended to be superheroes had a little bit better talk. The kids that had on the costumes that lasted the longest said things like, Batman never quits. Dora the Explorer always finds a way. They took it out of the personal and they took it into the realm of that alter ego. Because now I've assumed the persona of Batman. I got on my backpack like Dora the Explorer. Dora never quits. Dora always finds a solution. That alone, when I saw the interview, that alone made me buy the book, because it is about stepping into a persona. So many times we show up as we may have adopted a false identity that in the moment that we adopted it, it served. Maybe we were coming through an abusive household, so we learned to shrink ourselves so as not to be hit as much or abused as much. Maybe we learned to shrink ourselves. No shade on the men, but on the women, y'all know we have real issues with shrinking ourselves and smalling ourselves up, and and so I didn't mean to make you go away, Stacy. So, but real issues with smalling ourselves up, where all of a sudden it's not the true identity, but we have so practiced this as a way of survival in a situation where in that moment it may have made sense, but now it has become the dominant identity that we're operating through. I didn't think about this when I was reading the book, but I'm thinking about it now. I went to school at University of Pennsylvania, and I became friends with this guy who was from Nigeria, and he was in the Wharton School. And we lived in the same dorm. We used to hang out. It was a really cool cat, and we talked all the time. And he said, Sherri, I got to ask you something. I don't get it. I don't get what's happening. And because we were talking about just how we show up and his experience of racism versus my experience with racism. And he said, I study with the Black students that are in my class. I know they know the answer because we studied together last night. But we get in the classroom and they get called on to answer a question that we just studied last night, that I just heard them give the answer to last night. And in the moment that they've got to answer the question, they fumble the answer. And you know, we were remarking on the idea that, you know, this is like just what was going on, what's the dynamic that's happening there. And that, you know, when you've lived that experience of microaggressions all your life, you will stumble when it ain't even in you to stumble. So these masks are powerful. And so when you're examining your life and you're looking at the ways that you're showing up, that you're not happy with the way that you're showing up, what you want to begin to say is, what is happening in the mind? Because some identity is showing up, something is going on in the mind that is producing the outer result. And you don't want to pretend like there is an effect that has no cause. Every effect has a cause. So if it's there, spend time talking to yourself about it. Get in partnership with the God in you about it. You know, God, I keep running out of money before the month ends. What's that about? Because there may be an identity that you're fulfilling. Because like begets like. If it's in the result, it's in the seed. And it may be in the seed in a way that you may not be able to see, that you may not be able to perceive. And so you want to spend time asking yourself the questions to get at it. I got this. I hope I wrote it down in this journal. I did. This doesn't belong to me. This was from a teacher that I studied. She called it clear. She said, you want to get some context and some circumstance. That's the C. Some context and some circumstance. What's happening and when does it happen? Well, I noticed that when I'm in the office, you know, and it's time to speak up in a meeting, I just don't feel confident and I don't share my ideas, you know, or I noticed that, and this could be anywhere. This doesn't have to just be in a work environment. This could be in your home environment. This could be anywhere. Then you want to ask the question, what's the line of thought? Before it happened, what was I thinking? Before it happened, what was I thinking? You know, but that's one of the things that I'm working with, personally working with right now, that there's a hat of minister and there's a hat of financial advisor, and they're two different hats. And I can't bring the warm earth mother into the financial office, because you know what those clients do? Walk over you. Okay. Those are two different personas. And so there's a Sherri that shows up as Rev Sherri, and there's a Sherri that shows up as Sherri, the financial professional. Does that make sense? And so, and because what was happening was the warm earth mother who wants to take care of you, who wants to, you know, help you release your best self. That want, not that I don't want those things, but there's a different persona that's being called for, right? There's a different authority in the financial world where you're pushing through people's skepticism, people being burned by other firms or other people or whatever, that there's a different level. And Earth Mother is not who's going to help you, that you get what I'm saying.
Can I just say something about that?
Yes, yes.
I was actually reading an article on the heart chakra by Sadhguru. He says exactly what you're saying. He says it's in today's world, that's the challenge, to be to to use your intellect and to be sweet at the same time.
Yes, yes, yes. And you're constantly changing that hat. And recognizing that it's not a bad thing that you're changing the hat. You're bringing who needs to show up for that moment. The third thing, the E in the clear, is emotions. So once you get some context and some circumstance, what happens? Well, you know, I show up and I want to just take care of everybody. And right? What was I thinking right before? Well, and so you're getting present to the thinking. Then what were the emotions? So remember, thoughts are in the head, emotions are in the body. So what's happening in the body? The feelings are interpretations of emotions. Emotions happen in the body. So there's a physiological reaction, that's the emotion, and the feeling is the label that we put on it. So for example, the same areas of the brain light up for excitement and nervousness. Depending on how you've conditioned your mind determines what you call it. And so one of the techniques that they give to speakers when they feel nervous is to actually say out loud, oh, this is excitement, because it's the same area of the brain that's lighting up. The A in clear is action. What were the actions that I took? So what was the context? What was the circumstance? That's the C. What was the line of thought? What was that train of thought that was happening, right? When I was showing up the way I didn't want to show up. What was happening in the body? What was I feeling? Was there a sense of anxiety? Was there tension? Was there a tightness? Was I relaxed? Like, what was happening? Chances are, if it's a response you don't want, you weren't relaxed. You know, what was happening? Then what was the action that I took, right? What was the thing I did? And then what were the results? And you want to follow this 5-step process to get clear on what's in the seed. So once you agree that there are no effects without causes, let me spend some time and get clear on the cause. You have the ability to do that, but you need some quiet time to do that. Hence, practicing the presence. You need some time to think about how you're showing up and the way you're showing up. And so the corollary to the law of demonstration is what we refer to in the Universal Foundation for Better Living as our responsibilities as children of God, which is right thinking, right feeling, right words, right actions, right reactions. And what we mean by right is that it's in alignment with these 4 previous principles. How do I know a thought is right? Because it agrees with the omnipresence of God. How do I know a thought is wrong? Because it violates the principle that God is the only presence there is. How do I know that a thought is right? Because it agrees with the divinity of humankind, that humankind is made in the image, likeness of God. How do I know that a thought is wrong? Because it disagrees with the divinity of humankind. So thoughts of I can't are wrong thoughts. Thoughts of I'm not able are wrong thoughts. Thoughts that I don't have are wrong thoughts. Thoughts that I can have that as far as I can see are right thoughts. So this becomes your standard for looking at a story in scripture. How do I know that a feeling is wrong? I will tell you the way you know a feeling is wrong is how does it make you feel? I think that's one of the most powerful things about the work that Esther Hicks does with Abraham is to teach you to feel what's happening in your body. And when you feel out of alignment or feel bad about yourself, you can know in that moment that you are out of agreement with God, because the God in you loves you and adores you and thinks that you're the most magnificent thing ever created. Write words that put yourself down, that are mean to you, that demean you, are wrong words. You know, you can't beat yourself up enough to do the right thing. If you think about the people that you showed up the best for in life, teachers, parents, whomever was that figure for you, it was always that one that they may have held you to a high standard, but there was this love that was there, and their words give you life. Right actions. Are the actions aligned with these principles? And then right reactions, right? Because it's as much about what we're doing as about what we're doing in response to what we're seeing. So a right reaction is, how am I showing up for the experience that has appeared? How am I meeting the perceived obstacle? Am I shrinking from it? Or am I standing up and saying, you know what? I'm bigger than this experience. If nothing else, but because I created the experience. I'm greater than this circumstance. One of the challenges with fulfilling this principle is the fact that so much of our day is habit. It's estimated that 50% or greater of what we do on a daily basis is habit. And so part of what makes the change piece challenging is that we've got to introduce a new habit for how we show up, how we respond to the stimuli in our day. And can we live close enough to our daily practices to give a better response to the things that come up in our experience? Questions, talk to me. Y'all quiet. I'm gonna need some words. How's this resonating? Can you do something with this? How can you put this to use in your life?
Well, Reverend Sherri, I just wanted to offer or go back to, if it's okay,
Sure.
principle number 3. I have a great JCI teacher who shared one of the handouts today, and it included not only the value and power, but the use of thought. And on the sheet, she described it as use of our thinking brings forth actions which give results, outcomes, and conclusions. And I thought that was interesting because I've been studying New Thought, but today was my first time actually noticing that that part of the value and power of thought.
Yeah,
So
I love that.
Thank you.
Yes, I love that. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. That there are no thought there. We may not be present to what we thought, but there is no action that does not have a thought that preceded it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
Oh, if I may, I have another question on the
Yes.
this clear method. Now, you said to ask yourself these questions if you find yourself that you showed up where you had thoughts that you didn't necessarily want to have.
So you can do this with anything, but typically we're doing it with something that we want to release that's been persistent, right? So persistently eating things that don't love your body, right? Then you can begin to work that method. What was the context? Because what you'll find is that there's all, habits have a form, right? There's always a trigger, there's always an action, and there's always a reward. And so if you can trace it back to the trigger, then you can do something about the action. Many times with a habit that we're not present to the trigger. And so we're in the action on our way to the result, not even realizing that the trigger had been set off. So if you can begin to question yourself, and I say do this lovingly, it's loving excavation. If you can question yourself, then you can begin to get behind the thoughts and the feelings that produce the action and the result that you're tired of getting.
Great, thank you.
Are you saying you're going to question? Is it that you begin to think and question that quote, trigger? Why is this coming up? Why is this happening? Is that what you're saying?
So I'm always challenged with the question, why is this happening? Because depending on the state of consciousness that you're in, you may give yourself an answer that's not the most loving answer. But if you get to the who, what, when, where, and how of what's happening,
Okay.
as best as possible can keep you out of the judgment.
Okay. All right.
The challenge with why is that it lends itself to you judging you, and we're very good at judging ourselves harshly. And so you begin to you look at the result, and then you back up to right before the result. Well, what was going on? What was that context of that circumstance? What was that line of thought, right? Then what were those emotions? What was happening in my body? So it's like you're doing a kind of a fact check. You're the detective, and you're trying to figure out, well, what, if you went in and you were investigating a crime scene, you would want to know what happened. Like you would try to like retrace the chain of events that happened right before the robbery happened, because those clues are going to help you understand, is this a new perpetrator? Is this an old perpetrator? Is this, there's a pattern that you'll begin to see. Does that help, VJ?
That helps. So in other words,
Ask away.
I become a true, some of you may not remember this, but a true Dick Tracy. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I watched that show one time. Yes, but that's it. That's exactly it. And you're doing that for yourself. We're doing this work as lovingly and as gently as we can. And I say that as a recovering person who's hard on herself. Okay, that it's loving you into your highest expression. Because love is a thing that sticks. Love is the thing that, when you love something, you will go to the ends of the earth for it. You love something. I found myself in love one day. I was doing something. I was like, you don't even iron clothes. What are you talking about? You dry clean everything. I was washing clothes, ironing, cooking. I was like, what the? Who that? Who that girl? You get what I'm saying? Like, love make you do things. And so when you genuinely love you go to the ends of the earth for yourself to release what is inside of you. and you value what is yours to give. You make room for it, to cultivate it. You fall in love with it, not in a narcissistic way, but you fall in love with the opportunity to express it, with the chance to share it, because it brings you joy to give joy in that way. Any other questions? Any other ahas, insights? What you could do with this?
Reverend Sherri.
Hi, Claudia.
So, hi. So sometimes the gentleness doesn't help. You know, maybe I need something a little bit more straightforward. You know what I'm saying? But being gentle, it's not that I'm not loving, but being gentle is just not good for Claudette. It's like I'm getting off. You know what I'm saying? I'm letting myself down easy.
Yes.
So
So I think you raise a good point. I'm glad you said that, because I probably somebody else felt exactly what you just expressed. And I don't call that love. So this love is not letting yourself off the hook. Because you love your child, you wouldn't let your child off the hook on certain things, because you know 10 years from now what that behavior expanded looks like. So I'm not suggesting that you're like giving yourself a pass. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you're staying in the space where you believe in the all potential inside of you, and never losing sight of that potential inside of you. And love is how you stay there.
okay.
I'm glad you said that, because I bet somebody else felt that and just didn't say it. So, yeah.
Reverend Sherri.
Yes. Hi, Constance. How you doing?
Hi.
Hi.
I'm good. You know, I work with the women in recovery. So when you were saying that, it just reminded me that we say, they are told to chase your recovery like you used to chase the drugs. So this way is to chase after the beauty that is within you, like you did, for the purposes of getting high or whatever. So this, I've been taking a lot of notes tonight, because the way that you've expressed the law of demonstration, I like sitting up under other teachers, because then I get a different way to express it and share it with other individuals. And everything that you have said is just touched me. So I can't wait till Monday, where I send out an email and invite the women to, chase after the beauty that is within them, like they did, the drug or the alcohol or stuff like that. So this is really beautiful. So thank you.
That's so awesome to me. That's so, I was gonna say that's so dope, but okay. That would have been no pun intended. That's so awesome to me. I love that. I wish I had thought of that. Chase after the beauty in you. What would that look like? So though some of you know this, and others you'll find out today. So one of the things that I did, this was back in October last year, we started a series on the 4 agreements, and Don Miguel Ruiz. This was a sermon series. And then we also did it in the Bible Hangout. And one of the sentences in that first chapter is that you can measure the impeccability of your word by your level of self-love. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, wait, what? You can measure the impeccability of your word by your level of self-love. And I've read that book many times before. I do not remember that sentence. It hit me like a freight train. And so then it made me go on this quest to kind of examine my self-love. But the thing is that the more you love you, the better words you use about yourself. And the more you love you, the more you refuse to use anything less than those same kinds of words toward anyone else. You can measure the impeccability of your word with your level of self-love. And what it helped me get present to was, ooh, I don't know how we're doing in this self-love category here. I say I love myself, but what does that look like? And when I started to examine my practices, I discovered that I had a lot of nice words to say about me, but there were no actions. And you know, the thing that I know about love is that you can tell me that you love me, but we don't never go nowhere. You'll never buy me nothing nice. We don't ever go out to eat. We don't none. Then I'm gonna leave you on the bar stool where I found you. Like, and so I had to realize that about myself. It was like, wait a minute, if you were somebody trying to holler at you, you would not give you the time of day. And that's when I really had to just kind of, this is one time I call it, get real with myself. That these words that I'm speaking don't have enough weight to them because they're not backed up by actions. And so that's when I started doing this, you know, got to do something nice for myself every day, period. Because when you're in love, that's what you do. Ain't that right, Earlene? You cook dinner. You make sure the clothes are laid out. It ain't even the clothes you wearing, it's the clothes they wearing. You make sure the clothes are laid out. Right? Yeah. You go through the house differently because you know, oh, the person is sleeping, so I want to make room for them so that I'm not waking them up with the stuff I'm doing. And so I had to really be honest with myself that I wasn't giving myself that level of consideration. And this was the other piece that was just like, you know, you can't escape principle, is that if you don't build that capacity in you, it has nowhere to land for you. A lot of not having is because the capacity has not been built. There's no room for it.
And
there's no attractive factor for it in your life. Would you say, DJ?
That's one of the things that I'm learning through New Thought.
Yes.
A lot of this stuff, it wasn't in me, or I thought it was not in me, because I did not believe it, because I did not speak it.
Yes.
Because I did not look for it in me.
Yes.
And now I understand, in order to see it in you, I have to first look and see what is in me.
Yes.
And I'm beginning to do that.
Yes.
Mhm.
It's falling in love with yourself is the greatest gift that you can give yourself. Falling in love with what who you are, the essence of who you are. And I'm trusting that everybody hearing this is not hearing, you know, narcissistic, ignore the people, be about self. I'm taking for granted that what I'm saying is translating over that, right? It's loving your highest self into expression.
Mhm.
There's a way, if you think about what you do for the person that you love, there's a way that you take care of them. There's a way that you show up for them. There's a way that you give to them, that you care for them, that you nurture them, especially in that first part. I'm not talking about, 10 years in when you forgot what it felt like on that first day, right? I'm talking about that. I'm talking about that good new love, right? And you know how you showed up before here with your representative. And I'm telling you, let your representative show up for you.
Mm-hmm.
Be that for you. Remember, you're look, and the thing is that when you gave in that way, the beauty is that you can continue to give in that way. So relationships that may have gotten a little dry, a little stale, there's a wonderful book. It's a little fundamentalist, but forget that part. The Love Dare. It's excellent. It's 40 days of doing sweet tender kindnesses for your love. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. There's no way to give in that way and not have it come rushing back into your experience in a reciprocal way. So
Can you share that?
can I share the book?
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
Is that
yeah.
the name of it?
It's called The Love Dare. It's called The Love
The
Dare.
Love Dare.
Yeah, it's called The Love Dare. It's a 40-day like guided journal, and like where you do something every day for your love, It's wonderful. But my point is that practice, no way, how God does anything is how God does everything. Every seed you put in the ground is coming back. So loving things every day for 40 days is going to reap a result, because guess what? This universe is faithful, because that's a principle, right? So what if you took the love dare with yourself?
Whoa.
Something sweet and kind for you. I tell you what's going to happen. You're going to run out of things to do, and you're going to have to rack your brain. Because that's what I found. I got to like day 10 and it was like, oh, shoot. And then I had to make a list. That's my point, is that we neglect ourselves. And so we don't show up as our best selves because we neglect ourselves. We're accustomed to putting ourselves last, as if that's going to get us what it is that we need. And it's not either or. It's not don't give to other people. It's both and. It's both and. So this is not pushing family aside, any of that. This is both and. And the balance of life is making sure that you build in that time to take care of you. Why? Because you have the seed of God inside of you that is meant to be expressed, and love is the way that it gets released. So I did not get to show y'all how to apply this to story, but we shall use that as we go forward. So next week we will pick up with the 4th chapter of Proverbs. What is
That was awesome.
Thank you guys. I love and appreciate you guys. You are my gift. You're the way I love humankind. I think this is, I say this all the time, I think this is the most important thing that you can do, is to figure out your relationship with God. Who and what is God, and who and what is you? And I think that it is, I think that it's powerful. I think that it's powerful. It's life altering. It changes everything. And then you become that spark where you are. You know, we'll see what happens on the track and field this year. But Americans used to dominate track and field. Michael Johnson, FloJo, Florence Griffith Joyner, like, I mean, we were dominant. Like, just if we were going to the Olympics, Americans got gold. And then came Usain Bolt. And Usain Bolt, his name is just perfect. Usain Bolt did not just break gold. He took back an attitude to Jamaica. And it changed the whole community there, the track and field community there, because now you are practicing against the fastest man in the world. And not only that, you're watching his recovery methods. You're watching how he comes back from a letdown. You're watching his routines. And so all of a sudden after him, it was Jamaica breaking gold, breaking gold, breaking gold. And I'm saying to you that you turned on, you expressing the presence of God inside of you, you become the Usain Bolt for your people. For the people that follow you, for your family, for your friends. Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
Well, I must say I've really been enjoying this. It was something that I needed.
Mm-hmm.
I do spend time in meditation. I do take the quiet time that I need, but there was something not moving, like working on my business, things weren't seeming to flow. And I was listening to a minister the other day, and he said he never sets out to write a title for a message. He always writes down a question, and God answers that question. So I'm learning to write out the question so that God can feed me. And in the feeding time, I've been listening. I listened to you. I couldn't be in class last week, but I listened to you on YouTube. And some of it I had to play more than one time so I could get the fullness of it to apply to what's going on with me. And I know from whence I've come. I know that there was a time that in my life I struggled to pay $350 rent. Now, you know, it's like way more than that. And it's flowing, but I want to keep the flow going. So I have to go back to when I first came into New Thought to see what motivated me and worked me at that time. And I've had to go back to some of the books. We're doing that wonderful class on the game of life, and that was one of my first books.
Yes.
I used to drive a bucket. And that was one of the first books that got me out of the bucket and into a real car. And out of the apartments that were, you know, they did what they needed to do at the time, but into a home that I love and love being in.
Mhm.
So I'm having to, as they say, go back to my first love
Yes.
of what I was learning in New Thought,
Yeah.
and put some freshness with it.
Yes.
So it's like taking one of mama's old recipes and putting my little knack to it and turning it into a masterpiece.
Yes.
Well, I know God is not through with me, and I'm going to get through this hump,
Yeah.
but my self-talk has to be, I have to use more affirmations.
Yes.
I have to improve my thought world. And when you went over the right thinking, right reaction, the five rights,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
it's like, I know this stuff and it's in there, but I have to bring it back up to surface and work with it.
Yes.
So I just want to thank you for all you've been saying and putting into my life today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Anybody else? I hope that this is serving. It's like this is that season. This is that season. I keep saying it. This is that season for us. And I don't want to say that any differently, to really step up and be. And it's like everything is coming together. I don't know, and I feel that I got no empirical evidence. It's just it just feels like that moment in the history of the world.
Mm-hmm.
That moment in the history of the world. And so to take this and to utilize that prayer time and to realize I'm a part of something so special. This idea has been traveling through time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's with us. It's been traveling through time. And so can we be on fire for it in a way that just lights up the planet and change the face of everything? Go ahead. I stepped on somebody's words.
Yeah, this is Wanda. I was just saying, I was in the bed. I wasn't going to log on. I'm like, I'm going to miss something good. And I was in the bed. It's after 11 o'clock here. I have gotten up. I've turned on my computer, got out my pad and my paper. So I just want to say thank you. This is awesome. And in the classes that I've been taking, of course, I forgot what the teacher said today about repetition, but going over these 5 basic UFBL principles is everything. You start everything that you read and come across, you're gonna be able to apply one of these principles to a life situation. So thank you for class tonight and everything that you do.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'll tell you something about repetition. Repetition is the only way to impress the subconscious mind. The conscious mind, you can educate this way, what we're doing.
Mhm.
The subconscious mind, only by repetition and impression. That's it. And so when you're trying to change that subconscious mind, it's over and over and over again. That's why habits stick. And so if you can do something consistently, and this is why I said that, why I like my little game with my habits, is that I've gamified doing the things that I want to get done on a daily basis. So yeah. And now it becomes easier to get it done. Well, I love and appreciate you guys. We will pick up with Proverbs chapter 4. I think only the first, let's see if I have it handy. The first couple of verses of chapter 4 next week. Oh no, first 9 verses. Well, we'll see. Chapter 4, verses 1 through 9. We might spend 2 weeks on that. Just make sure we have enough time to go through it. But chapter 4, verses 1 through 9. Loving wisdom, hating evil. Evil being whatever is not right? Whatever is against those 5 principles. So, all right. Have a beautiful night. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I will see you guys next week.
Wonderful.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you, Reverend.
Good
Have a
night,
great weekend, everyone.
everybody.
Good night.
Good night.